As we begin today, I want to acknowledge that I am located in Lloydminster on the border of Alberta and Saskatchewan in the heart of Treaty 6 territory. Before the arrival of the explorers and settlers, many First Nations traveled through and thrived in this area, which also includes the homeland of the Métis. I was born here, but I chose to return here as an adult. And now, after unlearning what I was taught in public school in the 1970s and 1980s, and relearning a less whitewashed history of this place, I see this land and its stories through very different eyes. I acknowledge that the roots of my family on the prairies came at the cost of the First Nations people who were here long before. Their land was taken so that my ancestors could farm and build their lives in this place that became known as Canada. I cannot change the past, but I can try to move forward in a good way by sharing what I've learned about the Indigenous peoples whose teachings are so intricately tied to this land and all it encompasses. On this morning of filming, Mr. Fine had driven into Lloydminster from his home on Sweetgrass First Nation. When he arrived, we sat outside, offered tobacco, and prayed before setting ourselves up inside. As we were preparing to start filming, he was eager to begin because the stories were coming quickly. He explains how he asked the spirits what he needed to share that day and was told that the young people are in need of the knowledge of the sacred. As such, we touch on life and death, caring for the earth, and what it means to be a child of Creator. Spirits visited us throughout the day. Several times when we stopped for a break, Wes told me that a particular presence had been sitting there with us. At times, he looked past me, acknowledging someone or something that I could not see. The stories literally poured through him. We filmed for over 5 hours, and will share parts of that day over the next 3 episodes. Mr. Fine is sharing stories as he knows and has experienced them, which may differ from those told within other Indigenous communities and settler institutions. Throughout the series, we discuss various plants and traditional healing methods. This is not intended to replace medical advice from trained healthcare providers. Some episodes contain graphic descriptions of events witnessed and experienced by the guest at his time in residential school and at various points throughout his life. They may spark memories and questions, so we are asked to listen with open hearts and minds. Viewer discretion is advised. So here we are, Mr. Fine Day. This has been 10 years in the making.
Yeah, for us. Yeah, for me, it's been a lifetime. And even beyond, because these are connected to the stories and the history of my ancestors, eh? It's not just me that's coming with these stories. These have evolved through time and been passed down, and language has evolved, understanding has evolved, humans have evolved, and it will continue. But it's about process. We are all part of a process. We are born, we live our lives, and then in Cree we say "e nakataskate," that a person has left the earth when they pass on. Ka nakataskate ay sino, when a person passes on, they go to a different dimension. If they have the connections and if they have the understanding of how it is to arrive there, and the ones that they will have to call on. It's important to know about the protocols, and for instance, the entities that stand at the doorways to the different dimensions and determine whether you are worthy or not worthy of passing through. And if you are not worthy to pass through, then they will guide you to where it is you have to go in order to deal with the issues that are yet unresolved from the earth life that you came from, And sometimes you have to go back and become another being going through another life on the earth. And that life can be as a bird or a tree or a bug, but it will be something that will help you to learn what it is you need to understand in order to move along. And if you have made conscious choices which are selfish and self-promoting, and in that sense incredibly negative to the rest of creation, because you think that the stories are only about you, your needs, your desires, your feelings. That's a very dangerous way to live, because it does not allow you the freedom to move anywhere outside of yourself. You remain stuck within yourself, within your grief, within your needs. And, in that kind of a lifestyle, if you are living a lifestyle which is not fulfilling, which is not pleasant, which is not happy, then you are starving your spirit or your soul. Because your soul needs emotion to grow. And where does emotion come from? It comes from memories, comes from dreams, visions, experiences that you've had, things you imagine. I mean, they can all become birthplaces of emotion. And the more positive emotions that you feed to your soul, the better of a chance that your soul has an opportunity to help in the evolution of the physical and intellectual and emotional components of yourself when those need to evolve, you see. And if you are starving your soul will send out a call, a yearning, so incredibly powerful. Before, this is the time when I live or die. And my soul is calling out to be nurtured, to be loved, to be looked at kindly, to be included, to be remembered. All of these things that are positive. We need to provide that for our soul, otherwise our soul sends out a call, a yearning. And that yearning travels through the mind. It travels through the emotions, and it travels through the mind. Emotions that are afraid, a mind that doesn't understand. And we become confused, we become lost, we become disoriented, and eventually we think we are not achieving anything because we are unworthy. And yet we've gone through all of these steps that humans have told us to go through. We've joined organizations and cults and all kinds of things, trying to work our way into the benevolence of Creator. And yet there are places that are reserved for people who have made negative choices and who they base their lives on those things, and they are stuck in dark places where they cannot move. And I have been in those places. I have heard those people screaming. They did not call me by my spirit name when I was taken through their darkness, but I could hear their screaming, and some of them recognized me. And they yelled at me, but they yelled my government name. Wes, pray for us, pray for us. And that spirit that was guiding me through that darkness said, don't waste your breath praying for these people. They made the conscious choices that have led them to where they are at this moment. And now they have to make up for the choices they made. And for some of them, that will be a long time, like more than your mind can comprehend. Millions of years they'll be stuck in that darkness because they consciously chose that darkness when they were living. They had no hope, they had no dreams, no imagination. And all of their stories were about terror, were about negativity. That's no way to live. It's a great way to kill your soul and that of your young ones. And the spirits say to me that now is a time when the young people are in urgent need of the sacred stories, of the knowledge of the sacred. They need to hear these stories. You know, we have now raised a generation of children who have no dreams, who cannot dream, and who have no experiences because they have been so confined in their lives, being told what to do and what not to do, that they have no experience to internally guide them. All the guidance they receive is from outside, which is not theirs, you see. Yeah. And this is a critical thing for especially parents, that you got to know when to let that child go. You know, even when they're infants or when they're babies, or you know, let them get to know their natural environment. And for us, we were put outside the house and, you know, left to crawl around and whatever it was we wanted to do out there. You know, play with sticks and stones and bugs, but we were allowed to do that, you know. And I remember one particularly powerful memory I have of me sitting on the east side of the house. Might have been 5 o'clock in the morning, just when the sun was coming up in the summer. I had my back against the dirt and the grass that covered the logs on our little mud house. I had my back against there because it was nice and warm, and I could also scratch my back on it. But I was sitting against the house looking down at my feet. There was a bunch of ants, and they were all traveling around really fast. They had little loads of something that they were carrying about, and it just amazed me how such little creatures could have such big burdens and yet be so light. And obviously they were doing something and going somewhere, and, you know, it generated that curiosity in me about where are they going, what are they doing, and it made me want to learn more rather than, you know, not seeing them, not even, and not having any interest in them because you can't see them. So, you know, these experiential learning, I suppose you know, that's what the educators call it. When you're allowed to learn from your own experiences. And, you know, I've talked to teachers about that. And often they will go to extremes like, well, what did you guys heat your house with? Oh, a stove, a wood stove. We made fires in there. And how did the children learn to stay away from the fires? Come on. You know, did you let them walk up and touch the stove? And I said, well, that'd be a pretty stupid thing to do. I said, you know, that because you're supposed to be taking care and teaching those children. And that's not teaching them. That's endangering, you see. My little brother, when he was 6, he got up early in the morning and he would get up and go and make a fire in a stove. You know, put the wood in there, throw some coal oil in there, throw a match in there. That was before he was 6. He did that because the house was cold and it needed to be done. And if he was the only one around, well, he would do it. That's just how you began to incorporate the things that needed to be done into your life, and the more capable you were, the more that was expected of you. But also, different times, for instance, in the evenings, my parents might invite the person to come over, share some stories, and we would be told to sit still. Kamotapik. And so we had to practice sitting still and not interrupting, not interfering, but just to sit and to listen, to reflect, to meditate, to remember. And, these people would come and tell us stories. And sometimes if they were interesting, we'd really pay attention. But if they were just babbling on about nonsense, and, we'd get up and run away. We weren't interested in, the things that they were trying to tell us to elevate their own status in our eyes, because children can see through those things. Yeah. So stories, they're very critical in helping children to grow up in healthy ways. And as parents, we are there to protect and to teach, to allow them to experience things, and also to understand that we are not the only ones there. There are other entities. For instance, a baby sitting on the ground might be approached by a wolf, where the wolf lies down and spends time with that child. And that would freak a person out, if they saw that. Because immediately they would assume the worst and think that wolf is going to eat their child. But maybe that's a wolf child. Maybe that wolf recognized that child, and they have something they have to pass on. Or an eagle that swoops down and picks up a baby and lifts him up, and then brings it back down and places it on the ground, to enhance its capacity to be able to see, to expand its vision, that there is much more to life than what you see from where you are. Take a look from up here. It's totally different, And so these entities, a lot of this stuff will come in dreams, but a lot of it will come into the physical reality, the world, once you become accustomed and comfortable with natural processes, where they are not offensive to you because you're afraid. You just understand this is part of nature, this is part of process, and either I become involved or I step back, or what happens with me will be determined by how I understand what's going on here. And a lot of our interactions with the earth, for instance, have become so negative. I say, the spirits came and they said to me, talk about the fact that the earth is poisoned, the water is poisoned, the air is poisoned, and that something has to be done. Something has to be done. People have to sit back and take a look and try to understand how we got here and how we can begin to make this place a better place for our descendants. And in that transition, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be incredibly difficult. And people who are superficial, simple-minded, weak, they will not survive. They will not see the changes because they do not have the strength. But the ones who are connected, who have faith, who are open-minded, and, who see the mystery and the wonder of creation, if they are blessed by the spirits, if they are sprinkled with the strength and the understanding and the calmness that is required to walk through the dark and difficult days that we will have to walk through, we will come out on the other end. And sometimes the spirits say it's like when you come out of that darkness, you will feel a little sprinkling, like a shower, being washed away of all the negativity that you went in there with. It will be left behind, and you can begin anew. A lot of this goes a long ways to explaining the human condition and the world that we live in, which is of our own making, which is our own creation. Now, is it this morning? I should listen to the news, I guess. There's some earthquakes happening right now. In the water. On the west coast. They're medium size. But things are going to change. Things are happening. We're being notified. We're being told to be aware, Take your eyes away from the screen for a while. Go and look out the window and see what's going on in the rest of the world, because that's a critical thing to be focused on at this point in time. But I need a little break. It's coming too fast now. I got to sort them out. Japan or BC?
I didn't hear that on the news today.
I haven't listened to the news either.
So is this coming?
Yeah. Has it happened already, or is it coming?
You started tearing up when you started talking about that.
Yeah. This is a critical thing. This is a critical point in human history. This is when we decide who's to live and who's to die. Yeah. And people think, that, your soul has currency. It's useful to some entities. And different entities have different uses for it. People say you can sell your soul to the devil. And people have done that. But what does the devil do with it? Or what does that energy do with it, Or, on the other hand, you can offer your soul to a creator. I work for you. I am your child. I live my life according to the gifts that you have bestowed upon me. I will harness all these things to help me understand where I am and to help me understand how to protect my children and how to take care of my old people, how to be a positive, healthy partner in the rest of the community, and, all of these things that need to be revisited in order to begin to help you define Awino Mania. Who am I? I am part of a community. For me, I come from the river people, Sipiwinawak, we call ourselves, the Battle River Cree. Newton Tosi beat the Battle River. But the people of the rivers, and we became connected to the rivers and the spirits that dwell within those rivers. It's not just one, there's many of them. Sometimes I take old offerings, the ones that we were given in the beginning. Spirits call them kakikanagwake, the clearly visible offerings, made out of the old willows and tied in specific numbers with certain colors. And I take them to the water and I put tobacco and I call to the one that lives in the water. And there have been times when that spirit that resides there has come up out of the water, and I have seen a female figure standing on top of the water, but I could see right through her because she was water. But she came and she stood to affirm and to validate that the gifts I was offering were acceptable, and she validated that by showing her presence and accepting them. Many places on this land where those spirits reside, because there are many doorways. Many places like hills that have doorways, or even valleys, for the little people who live in the earth, have their doorways. And all of these things, so many of our old people who had the authority to talk with these things or about these things because they had relationships with them, have gone. And we have no one to tell us these stories, because no one goes and sits on the hills or by the water and meditates and prays. I went to a lake, and the spirit came out of there and thanked me for coming because I had made offering, and said, "This is the first time in generations that anyone has come and made offerings to me. In the past, your people came every summer. Every springtime they would arrive and camp and do ceremony. Give me tobacco, cloth, and feed me that which I like to eat. They would bring me. And in return, when their children came to play on the beach, came to play in the area, I would watch over those young ones in exchange. But now no one ever comes and makes offerings. No one ever comes and does ceremony. Why should I be bothered even coming to look? Nobody calls me. Nobody invites me. And it's like we've forgotten all of these things that empower us. And so we become powerless people in a world of power that we cannot understand, and that we begin to fear because we do not understand it. And anything, like last night, the spirits were moving about in my room, and I had asked them to come and provide guidance. I have lots of stories. Which one should I tell? What should I say? What do the young ones need? What will help these ones become who they were meant to become? Become the goddesses they were meant to become, and the gods, the children of Creator, that they have the potential to be. If they had the guidance, the protection, the teachings. No, we teach them to be plumbers and electricians and carpenters and technicians and think that's what will pull them through. That's what will save them. And it's not to say that these are not good things to learn, but that's, your brain is quite capable of learning all of that, skills development, as well as understanding the sacredness of life, the soul, the emotions, the power of the emotions.
I think this would be a good time to share what one of your first teachings to me, because I think it ties together with so many things that we've been talking about. So when you came to speak at the college, it was October of 2014, and you came to speak at the Native Studies class, and I was asked to go and take pictures because we had an Indigenous speaker coming, and we wanted pictures to show that we were doing Indigenous things on campus and decolonizing. And everyone knew that I was interested in stories, and so I was asked to go and take pictures that night. And I listened to your stories, and I took some pictures, and I was brought to tears. And then at the end of the session, I introduced myself to you and asked if you would like some copies of the pictures. And so you said yes and gave me your email address. And the next day I sent you an email, and I thanked you for coming to speak and shared the pictures and said that you had brought me to tears. And then you emailed me back this reply, and this is hung on the bulletin board of my office for the last 10 years. And so I see it every day. And so this is what you told me. Being moved to tears can be a wonderful thing, for it is the emotions which nurture and nourish the soul of a human being. It is the physical body's way of showing thankfulness for the gift of having received that for which it has been yearning. To be able to listen and hear at that level is an incredible accomplishment, given all the obstacles that have been placed in our way. Continue to strive to become the shining example of the potential and power of the Creator's grand dream.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty profound words.
Yes.
And I've shared that a lot with people over the years when they've said, I shouldn't cry, or it's embarrassing to cry, and the power of tears and water.
Yeah. And you shouldn't be afraid to cry. People say I shouldn't cry because they're afraid to express their emotions where others will see. And what better place to express your emotions than where others will see? And be aware of your example, because what that requires is fearlessness. It's a courage beyond the norm, where, at least in today's day and age, where we are taught that we are insignificant and that, our voices are irrelevant because we are ignorant and we are unworthy, and we have that so deeply embedded in our beings that we come to believe it. And you have whole societies of people growing up with that same understanding that we are all unworthy, so things don't matter. So let's just do as we please, you see. because there is no other path that we know of, and that we can see. And you know, as long as you sit inside and looking at a screen, you'll never see the pathways that you could be journeying on in the sky, on the earth, in the water, you know. And yet, those spirits, for me, they keep coming, like the fire spirit came. In the past, it said, people nurtured me. Every year, there were ceremonies, and I was given to feed of the environment, you know, and I did it so that it would be habitable for humans or for other animals. And, you know, that whole process, there is a part of you that is unseen, but it is not unfelt, and it is not unheard. And there are beings that sit with you because they know the journey you're on, and they're supportive. And they come to act as guides and protectors, and to encourage you to continue on this path. And this path will not be easy. It requires great effort. It requires an unwavering vision. You cannot be thrown off your vision, disconnected from your vision, and continue on that journey. And you have to be sure that what you envision is what Creator is holding out for you.
There was a day that it was the first time I came out to Sweetgrass to see you. And we spent the day on the land, picking medicines, telling stories, listening to stories. I think you were testing me at the time, and I didn't know it. But I guess I passed. And we talked and drove around and picked medicines, and it was a beautiful day. It's one of the most memorable days of my life. And somewhere along the way, I told you I was in my 40s and I was kind of settled in life, and you know, I had said maybe at one time I thought I was going to be famous or rich and do amazing things, and I just kind of settled, and this is my life and it's good enough. And you held my cheeks and you looked me straight in the eye and you said, "You will do great things." And in that moment, suddenly I believed it, because you told me and I was ready to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to understand about being a child of Creator and how Creator had a vision for me and that I was worthy of great things.
And that you were led up the hill and you were placed in the medicine wheel. And did you even know that?
But I still have that picture on my phone as my screensaver 10 years later.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what was happening. And some days I still don't understand what's happening.
And Âsokan was there. And Âsokan often comes and he says, "I'm here to protect. I am here to guide. You have come to my doorway. I will come and meet you, and I will protect you. And you can sit in safety here and talk about sacred things," you see. You know, it reminds me of how Sweetgrass, when he was the chief, one of Sweetgrass's spirit helpers was a mosquito. And Sweetgrass used to have to strip down to his breechcloth and go out and sit on a hill and let the mosquitoes come and feed, because those were his helpers. And you don't just take. You gotta reciprocate. And in that reciprocation, I mean, you will gain things that are beneficial, not things that are deadly. So how do you change? You know, that's how you change. How can I say this? That's how you change your food into medicine. From nourishment to include healing. Healing nourishment, rather than simply nourishment. That will make you grow morbidly obese and little else, you know. But without the enlightenment and without the teachings. Yeah.
And that's like distractions. I mean, we've talked a lot about distractions and letting go of distractions.
Yeah.
So,
and recognizing them, you know, to think and to reflect. Well, I should be going and taking these offerings out to the hill, but maybe I'll go for a swim first, you know. Maybe I'll go for a workout, or maybe I'll do something else first and leave ceremony till the end, you know, till I have time for it. Not understanding that that's the most important thing in your life, you know. If you don't have time, make time. There's something wrong with your life if you don't have time. Yeah. And so we should all make time for that.
thank you for joining us. We look forward to continuing these conversations. Thank you to Mr. Fine for his time and stories. Special thanks to the Lloydminster Public School Division Prairie Thunder Boys Drum Group for providing the music for our podcast. We also want to acknowledge Lakeland College for the use of space and equipment, as well as TELUS STORYHIVE for their support.